how to manifest you money fast. You've probably already done dozens of things to try and manifest more money, whether that means affirmations, visualization, scripting, but no matter how much work you're putting in, you just can't seem to increase the amount of money that you're making. And you're doing everything right, but it's not working. I mean, surely there's got to be a reason why manifestation works for everybody else except for you. There is. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that is and how to solve it. But here's why you should even listen to me. I made 6 figures online at 18 years old. I have a YouTube channel with over 2 million subscribers. I've spent over 10,000 hours studying money and psychology, which makes me an expert on the stuff. And I've been coached directly by some of the biggest entrepreneurs on the internet, including Nero Knowledge, William Brown, and Charlie Morgan. So to get right into it, here are the biggest misconceptions people have about manifestation. When people start manifesting, they usually have a specific goal in mind. You know, it might be a certain amount of money, it might be a relationship, or it might be a house. And they put all of their effort into materializing this one thing. And maybe they binge read all of Neville Goddard's books, they write their money goals out across their vision boards, or they visualize someone handing them a check for $100,000. But even after doing all these things, nothing changes, and they start to get frustrated. I know all this because I've been in these shoes. And the problem isn't that you're doing anything wrong, it's that you think you're doing something wrong. If you're visualizing all these things with the thought, I'm not doing this wrong, or why isn't it working, then you're negating the whole function of manifestation. And to quote Nero Knowledge, manifestation is internally shifting to a degree to which you're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. This is the key word here, emotionally dependent. This means that you have to get to a point where you don't care whether or not you get that money or that Lamborghini or whatever you want, because you have to feel like you already have it. If the money that you were trying to manifest showed up in your bank account tomorrow morning, would you continue trying to manifest it? No, because you'd already have it. And that's the whole point. You have to already have the thing that you want. When you imagine yourself having all these things, it's very important that you hold the frequency of already having it. And if you're frustrated that you don't have it, you're holding the frequency that you don't have it, so you're never able to have it. Getting the things that you want will not make you happy. Instead, the only way to get the things that you want is if you decide to be happy now. And this is where the discrepancy lies. Manifestation is not about trying to get these 3D desires. It's about embodying the feeling of having them right now and not letting your external world emotionally affect you. I mean, if you want a Lamborghini and you keep muttering to yourself, I have a new Lamborghini, I have a new Lamborghini, but you're doing it from this desperate place of hoping, it's the equivalent of working 16 hours a day trying to force yourself to make more money. Even if you're driving a 2002 Volvo, it should still feel like a Lamborghini to you. This doesn't mean you have to go pimp out your car with leather seats and butterfly doors. It's not about the car. It's how you feel about the car. How would a Lamborghini make you feel? Would it make you feel proud? Would it make you feel wealthy? Would it make you feel powerful? Whatever it is, feel that way right now. If you keep trying to manifest a Lamborghini, but you feel hopeless, you feel poor, and you feel weak, you can affirm to yourself 24/7, it's never going to come until you switch the energy you're doing it from. So here's how to have what you don't actually have. This doesn't mean you stop manifesting things. It just means you stop trying to manifest things. Do you see the difference? Manifestation, by definition, just means you're embodying the frequency of your desire. So the second you start visualizing your new Lamborghini and embodying the feelings of having it right now, you've already done it. You've already manifested it just by feeling like you have it. It's not, I'll visualize it now so that I can get it later. But when you visualize, it should be, I'm actually sitting in this car right now. When you affirm to yourself having the money or visualize the Lamborghini, just imagine it with such depth and vividness that it actually feels like you have those things in your possession. Again, as soon as you do this, you've already manifested it. You're no longer waiting for it. But what if you've already done this? What if you already understand the importance of feeling as though what you want is already yours, and you've done that 1,000 times over, but still nothing has changed. Even though you've successfully felt these feelings, if you're not actively conscious of it, why does your mind continue to revert to these old ways of thinking? Do you need more time? Do you just wait it out and force yourself not to be frustrated? Or do you just let it go and stop with the affirmations altogether? No. Lucky for you, there's an even better way to fix this. Here's the real reason you still aren't in the right frequency. My guess is that you're trying to manifest more money. If not, I'm not sure why you're watching a video with this title, but let's say you've been doing your manifestation techniques for a few weeks now, maybe even a few months. Surely, if you've been doing it properly, you should at least be feeling a little bit differently by now, right? So why are you still so annoyed by the fact that you're not making more money? I mean, let's take George. He's a life coach, and he's been stuck at $5,000 a month for over 2 years now, and all he wants is to get to that $50,000 mark, but nothing has worked. He's tried new strategies for his business, he's tried taking courses, he's read every business book under the sun, but nothing was happening. So eventually, he just turned to manifestation. Every night before bed, he's been visualizing a $50,000 paycheck coming his way, and he immerses himself as deeply as he can. He sees himself opening the check, he imagines telling his parents, and he genuinely feels elated about it. He is truly stepping into the wish fulfilled. So why, after 6 months of doing this, has nothing changed? Why is he still stuck at $5,000 a month? I mean, why does he still feel so frustrated? Well, for starters, it certainly doesn't help that he still lives with his parents. I mean, part of why he wants $50,000 a month is because he wants to buy a house. But he can't do that on his current salary. And every day, his father is berating him about what he does. And he's constantly writing him to get a real job, to make some real money and go be a doctor or something. But if George's frequency is so strong, this shouldn't even bother him. So why is it? Well, let's backtrack a little bit. When George was a kid, he would always hear his mom and dad arguing about money. You know, if he wanted a new toy, his dad would yell at him about how money doesn't grow on trees, and that if he wants a toy so bad, then he has to go get a job and buy it himself at 5 years old. Consciously thinking about this memory now, it just kind of annoys George. But as a kid, what do you think that teaches him? Things like money doesn't grow on trees, or we're not made of money. When a kid hears things like this over and over and over again, he's automatically going to associate negative emotions with money, and it's destroyed George's perception towards money. Because George associates money now with conflict and pressure, it feels dangerous to him, no matter how badly he wants it. His body isn't resisting the money itself, it's resisting the perceived threat that comes along with it. So this is why these childhood beliefs are so dangerous. Trauma doesn't have to mean that you go to war and you step on a landmine. All it means is that you have a memory with a negative emotional charge. That's it. If you have a negative association with a memory, it is considered trauma. Maybe a little kid accidentally breaks his dad's favorite coffee mug and dad yells at him for it. As small as this may seem, it's considered trauma. If he's terrified in that moment, for the rest of his life, he is going to associate some level of fear with his dad because of how he reacted when he broke that cup. There's a reason kids are so impressionable. When you're a kid, you have no ability to reason or question reality. Everything that happens to you just happens and you just go with it. The reason for this is that your brain is in a theta state, which means every remark that's made by the people around you gets cemented into your brain, whether that's your friends, your teachers, and most importantly, your parents. Not only are your parents the people that you're around the most, but they're the ones who you look up to. They're the ones that you're looking to for all of the answers. But if you were raised by someone other than your parents, just extrapolate this to them. When one of your parents makes a statement, you just accept it and you assume, okay, well, since dad said it, it has to be true. And even if later in life you consciously realize that dad was wrong, somewhere deep in your subconscious mind, there's a little kid in you still clinging on to everything that dad said. And that part of you that's still trying to make money still feels like he's 5 years old. And he's doing everything he can to avoid being yelled at by dad again. And unfortunately, this is a million times more powerful than any affirmations you might be doing now. Your nervous system is addicted to negative emotional states, even if they're painful, whether it's stress or worry or fear or trying harder. These emotions are normal to you now. So when you try to visualize peace or abundance, because stress is so normal, your nervous system rejects them because they're unfamiliar to you. Even though it seems illogical, if an emotion feels unsafe or unfamiliar to your brain, it's going to keep you away from it because, ironically, it means you feel safer when you're stressed than you do when you're at peace. Like, it's almost like being at peace makes you feel stressed. If you had a particular belief drilled into your subconscious mind when you were a kid, no amount of manifestation techniques are ever going to reverse that. As long as the belief still has a hold on your mind, it is always going to win. Even if you're doing these techniques every single day, if your subconscious mind does not align with what you're trying to achieve, it's going to fight you every step of the way. If your father taught you that it's hard to make a lot of money, no matter how much you affirm, I'm making a lot of money, unfortunately, dad's voice is always going to win. And odds are, your dad meant well. He didn't do this to hurt you. He did it because it's what he learned is safe, so now he's just trying to protect you. So don't go like hating your dad for this. The unfortunate part is that as benevolent as his intentions might have been, they're not serving you now. They're only hurting you. They're stopping you from creating the life that you want. And if you associate a negative emotion with a memory, that emotion is locked inside of you. And this means you have not processed this emotion. And until you do, it is never going to go away. Like if you ever heard your mom yelling at your dad for working too much, no wonder you have a negative association with money. You learned that it's a bad thing to work hard. But there's good news for this. You ready? You can rewrite your childhood memories. That sounds crazy, right? But it's true. No matter what kind of trauma or negative events you remember as a kid, odds are a lot of them are still affecting you today. But what if I told you it was possible to completely change these memories and make yourself feel like you had a totally different childhood? You'd probably think that I was insane, right? But not only is it possible, it's necessary. Because if you keep getting held back by your childhood beliefs, you will never be able to create the reality you experience. And here's the reason that this process actually works. It's because although they happened, 15, 20, 30 years ago, although they happened in the past, these memories are not happening in the past. They're happening, as far as your nervous system is concerned, they're happening right now because the emotions that were stirred up in those moments are still living inside you today because whether you're aware of it or not, your brain is still hooked on that memory. And by directly going into that memory, instead of repressing it every day, by directly going after it and unwinding what happened, you're finally releasing the emotion that you experienced in those moments. But what if you had a perfect childhood? What if your parents supported you, you had a lot of friends, and you really don't have any negative memories? Well, this can actually be a little bit tricky. Like, there was one guy talking about how he had an amazing childhood, no problems with his parents. But then when he was asked if his parents ever hit him, he said all the time. But he immediately justified it. And he said, oh, but that was my fault. I was a bad kid. They had to control me. All of that might be true. Hang on. This scroll wheel, I got to get a new mouse. But either way, even if it's true, that association is not serving him anymore. So if you have something like this, you might have to dig really deep and really flip things on their head because I guarantee there are some memories in your childhood that you're not thinking of. Without looking for anything specifically negative, just search around for your childhood memories that may have had an impact on you and just think about how. Odds are there's at least one thing in your childhood that you associate with a negative emotion. Find it, because that's where the root of your subconscious blocks lie. And once you have all those, here's how to rewrite your childhood. But fair warning, if you have memories that are truly traumatic and you don't think you can bring them up without intense negative emotions, I suggest working with someone. Otherwise, you run the risk of re-traumatizing yourself. So just keep that in mind if you have some really bad stuff there. But just the first step is to identify the memories that are popping up in your reality today. This won't be obvious at first, but maybe you remember there was one time you misbehaved, so your dad threw away your favorite toy. Without money ever being mentioned, this might create the belief that if I do something wrong, then I'm going to lose something that I love, which somehow leads to you losing money nowadays. And on top of that, there will probably be more than one memory. But for now, just identify all of them and just make note of them. Once you think you've identified most of these memories, pull up the earliest one chronologically. This is the one that you want to focus on first. And as you rewrite each memory in order, it sort of creates this spider effect that gradually erases all of the memories afterwards the more times you do it. So if something happened to you when you were 3 years old, your perception is changed from that moment forward. So if you're in a similar situation when you're 7, even though you're very young, your brain is still going to refer to that original memory from when you were 3 and use that to bring up the same emotions, since that's what feels safe to it. But by just focusing on the first memory, you release some of the emotion from the second memory, and however many more there are after that. But here's how you actually rewrite each memory. First, remember the memory itself. Again, don't traumatize yourself. Just be aware of what's coming up for you as you imagine it. What emotions do you feel? What thoughts are you having? And just sit with this for a couple of seconds before going to step 2, which is imagine something better happened. Something that you specifically would have liked to experience in that moment. Something positive. I once heard of someone whose mom would call him a burden when he was a child. So he went back to that memory, and instead, he imagined her giving him a big hug and telling him how much she loves him. So decide on the new memory, and this one, you could sit in this positive memory as long as you want. You honestly want to, but the key is just to make sure that you really feel these emotions, some feeling of love or happiness, or whatever comes up with this new positive imagination, just fill your whole body with it. If you mainly feel it in your chest, be aware of it and see if you can shift it everywhere else, your head, your feet, your stomach, and just sit with it for as long as it feels good to you. But here's a disclaimer. You're not doing this to remove blame from anyone who might have wronged you in the past or forget that any of these things happened to you. By doing this, all you're doing is removing the emotional charge that these people or events have had on you and on your life for such a long time. You're still going to remember everything that they did. It just won't bother you when you think about it. And these beliefs that they drilled into your mind won't be there anymore. But once you've successfully sat in the new memory, go back to the original one. And again, don't sit in it for too long. Just do it long enough to see what's coming up. Does it still feel negative, or does it feel neutral, or maybe just a little bit less negative? But once you've got a feel for that, go back to the new memory again and do the same thing. Just channel these feelings of love, spread them throughout your entire body, imagining this new scene like it's really happening. And then go back to the old memory again and just keep doing this back and forth again and again until the old memory doesn't make you feel so bad anymore. So now, here's how to really solidify the new memories. After you've done this exercise above, you can implant this new memory into your brain whenever you feel like it. When you're on a walk, when you're at the gym, when you're on a date. Even though that sounds weird, you should probably be focusing on a date. You get the idea. Even if you have a few seconds, use those seconds to just sit back in whatever memory that you've created. And this is a biological process. You're literally rewiring the neurons in your brain so that this new memory that you're creating is what you actually feel like you experienced as a child. The more you do this, the more you're training your mind to get used to these new feelings that you never got to experience. And as you go through each memory, you're literally going to start feeling like you had a completely different childhood. It's kind of crazy when you start to experience this. And no, you don't have to continue to revisit the original memory. Just once you've rewritten it once, just focus on constantly replanting the new memory into your brain. And just do it a couple times a day at least. When you wake up, after, during your break, when you go to bed, as many times as you can find. But if you want to work with me directly, click the link down below. I will help you identify and remove whatever is personally blocking you from making more money in your business, whether that means figuring out which memory you want to rewrite or creating the visualization scene. You will inevitably start making more money when you pinpoint your subconscious blocks and remove them, which is exactly what I'm going to help you do.